Gunsmith Cats, Lycoris Recoil, Blade Trinity. What's the one thing that ties these series together? Girls with guns. And maybe you've seen some of the stuff within this genre. I've even talked about a couple of them here on the channel, but you probably haven't seen one quite like this. The anime follows two little ladies, Kirika and Mariel. One is a schoolgirl with amnesia, and the other is an established hitman with slightly less amnesia. Kirika is the one who reaches out to Mariel with a cryptic email that plays a familiar tune tied to her clouded childhood. Intrigued, Mariel meets up with the strange girl, but some suits working for a shadowy organization show up and shoot up the place. Not surprisingly, Mariel puts up a good fight, but Kirika seems to be on a whole other level when it comes to combat. And that really bothers her because she has no idea why that is or who she even is. All she knows is that she has some connection to Mariel. The two make a fragile alliance to uncover the mystery surrounding their seemingly connected past, but with one minor stipulation: Kirika's life. Mariel is an assassin, and she needs to stay anonymous after all. They both agree to these terms, and they start working together under the code name Noir. That's the name of the show. In the beginning, they mostly operate in Paris, the city of love, a truly beautiful location overflowing with culture. The sweet scent of romance in the air, the pretty lights dancing atop the Seine River. And just around the corner is your Prince Charming or Princess Perfect. But the girls' search for answers brings them to other places too: Corsica, New Jersey, even Taiwan at some point. As it turns out, that shadowy organization has its reach all over the world, which gives the show a good excuse to switch up the environments every few episodes. The story is honestly nothing special, and it gets a little convoluted at times, but probably the biggest thing is that it's slow and kind of on the sidelines for the most part. Noir is sort of like a Cowboy Bebop, except Jet and Spike are both women, and they're hitmen instead of bounty hunters. And Faye doesn't show up until like halfway through. Also, Ed and Nine aren't there, and it's not even set in space. Look, what I mean is that it's structured the same way. Most of the show is a series of smaller stories that revolve around the target of the week and sometimes feel like they're hardly connected to a grander plot. That's not to say it's a bunch of filler where nothing meaningful involving the main duo happens. Their past, preferences, and personal philosophies all get a little color. It's just spread out over probably more episodes than were needed. It might sound like I would have preferred less of these episodes, but that's not exactly how I'd frame it. I actually think these types of episodes are some of the better ones that aren't bogged down with relentless exposition. And not knocking the main plot, if you ask me, it's consistently fine. But my favorite episode is Season of Hell, which has almost nothing to do with the main story, and instead tells this very tragic tale involving Kirika and a painter. It's good stuff, but a lot of the other episodes fail to deliver an equally memorable outcome. They'll have some decent character moments, but they can feel pretty formulaic at times. At the very least, I can say the main story is packed with enough twists and turns to keep things interesting, even if it's more of a slow burn kind of show. And the main villain, Altia, I kinda like her. I think she's got a pretty interesting perspective. Her traumatic childhood gave her a very warped perception of love and hate, and it's very interesting to hear what she has to say or what she's willing to do to save the world, in her view. But the thing that really kept my attention was that trademark Kōichi Mashimo style. That's right, the absolute legend behind the masterpiece that was Eat Man, and a good friend of the channel. Also, I just found out he directed part 1 of Dominion Tank Police, which, you know, that actually explains a lot. For those who don't know, Mashimo has this little technique he utilizes to create memorable shows: copious amounts of alcohol. No, this is not a metaphor or a joke. It is an accurate description of his creative process. So when you see something strange in one of his shows, now you know why. Although compared to the other stuff I've seen from Mashimo, Noir is far more normal. You know, as normal as a show about two girls assassinating their way to the truth can be. I mean, there is a fair amount of autistic staring, but that's about it. The weirdest thing I can think of is the cult of heavily armed nuns the girls eventually fight, which by anime standards isn't all that out of the ordinary. Another thing Mashimo tends to do is get Yuki Kajiura to compose the OST. Don't know her? No, you know her. And if you're like me, then you've never been disappointed by her work. But you might get a little tired of it watching this anime. It shouldn't need to be said, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Noir's soundtrack is fantastic. The songs are distinct and varied, and they always find a way to make scenes better than they really are. The problem is that certain tracks, which are great, are used way too frequently. Canta per me is a wonderful theme for this dangerous duo, but I really do not need to hear it every 5 minutes. Have you guys noticed how pretty this show is? Now, I know taste in art is subjective, but can we all agree the show looks nice? Every episode is filled with beautifully hand-drawn backgrounds that give the show such a cinematic feel. The framing, the lighting, even the stiffness of the characters, it's all stylish. And it does a great job masking what I assume to be a limited budget. But for the most part, they really use that budget for the action scenes. So whether it's a shootout or a stabbing match, things look fantastic. One minor complaint that I do have, though, is that there isn't any blood. Now, I don't need full-on edgy schlock, although as you probably know by now, I'm certainly not opposed to that stuff. But it's just kind of weird that we have all these guys getting shot or stabbed and nothing to show for it. I don't need a gore fest, just give me some of that Batman the Animated Series mouth bleeding.
I'm the Joker, baby!
But really though, the show holds up so well despite being from the 90s. Oops, actually I lied, it's not from the 90s. Yeah, believe it or not, Noir released the same year Halo hit the shelves. 2001. Many anime around this time were throwing in some digital stuff, if not outright leaving behind the traditional method altogether, and I am so very thankful Noir stayed with cell animation. I definitely prefer the grainy look that comes with it, and I think it's the perfect fit for a noir-style anime called Noir. But some people think there's an even better fit for the series: live action. I am not some people, but I figured I should mention this little piece of trivia because it's kind of wild to think about. Back when the world was ending in 2012, there were talks of having a potential live-action remake for the Starz network with none other than Sam Raimi attached. To produce, not direct, unfortunately. So what happened? Well, the script kept undergoing extensive rewrites with the revolving door of writers that struggled to get the project to a good place. Production went into an indefinite hiatus until the whole thing was canned in 2014, and nothing of value was lost. Although I am kind of curious how the whole thing would have turned out. Aside from that, there are two other entries in this makeshift trilogy: Mad Lax from 2004 and El Cazador de la Bruja from 2007. Now, there's no story connection between any of them, they're just spiritual successors. Are they good? I don't know, I haven't seen them yet, but my gut tells me they probably aren't as good as Noir. And not just because, you know, old equals good, new equals bad, although so true. No, I'm leaning that way mostly because I watched Phantom, which is very similar to Noir, and I didn't like it very much. Kōichi Mashimo, I'm sorry, but we'll cut this from the video. Now, have you seen Noir, and did you think it was any good? Or have you never even heard of it before, and now find yourself curious? Let me know down below, and until next time, Ave Maria, Deus Vult, and as the French say, fuck.